We will be sharing with you some insights in multi-stakeholder networking and how to translate what we know to our practice. And first, a short introduction what we are trying to do. I think that we are sharing mainly this slide always when we start, so that we have at least 3 layers here. We have science, we have policy, and something intermediate. And we are talking about science today. We will be speaking about the policy outcomes tomorrow, and where we are dealing and where we are trying to make difference is there in the middle, where we have the participatory approach, engaging everyone, but really linked to public health goals. And what we try to do within the STOP multi-stakeholders engagement and networking, we try to better understand facilitating and inhibitory factors for successful stakeholder collaboration. We would like to understand what are those concepts of power, trust, transparency, evidence-based, which pop up from our discussions in first and the second dialogues. We would like to explore more effective the strategies for collaboration among stakeholders, and also we would like to recommend at the end how to further work. So we would like to, or we have the obligation within the project to produce the recommendations to the Commission how to better work in this networking participatory. So what we have done till now, and what in fact, how our work looked till end 21, we started in 2018, as you know. We ran the first survey, thankful to everyone who has really responded. And then we had the first report, which fitted in the first stakeholders dialogue. So we then produced the final report and had the second stakeholder dialogues. And from both dialogues and what we found in the first survey, we compiled the second survey. And we think that we really tried to put everything what we knew on board. And here we are with the third stakeholders dialogues. And as you can see, we will have the fourth one in approximately half of a year. And at these dialogues, we are kindly inviting you to join and to speak about how could we really work better together to come up with a kind of a model for our collaboration. What we know about the mapping of the stakeholders ecosystem till now, in the first survey and dialogues, we found out that health sector stakeholders diversify. They are not, if you perceive yourself as a health sector stakeholder, you can be everywhere in any position towards any measure. So we explored in this survey better how the health sector stakeholders are positioning themselves. Then we, together with you, got the key concepts which are challenging stakeholders' cooperation, and it seems that trust, transparency, power, equity, sustainability are the ones which we have to explore. Then the characteristics of the decision-making processes were also studied. How do we perceive regulatory versus soft approaches? How do different alliances of the stakeholders or different stakeholders groups are positioning themselves towards regulatory or soft approach in a specific measure? And we have also been speaking about the principles of collaboration. So what are the agreements? What are the alliances among stakeholders? Who works with whom? And that's what we are going to upgrade just now or today. So the second stakeholder survey ran from late May till August and August. For the sampling frame, we haven't have it numerically defined, but we listed the stakeholders really thoroughly, so we know the shares of the stakeholders in each of the groups, so that we can, to some extent, validate what came back in the survey, and we have also weighted those results according to these shares of the stakeholders which we knew in advance. We have been weekly following it up, and really with big thanks to everyone, including Commission, because we shared a lot this data, and thanks to everyone who responded. We are looking really very much forward, because we have now the EU survey finalized, but 8 national stakeholder surveys are still running within the STOP and Joint Action Best-ReMaP countries. Again, very thankful for that. When we get this data, the database will be that big that will allow for more disaggregation. And just the last thing here, public health procurement were also added into the second survey. And now the word goes to Luka, who will present the scientific results from the networking side analysis. Please, Luka.
Just to point out what the basic themes of research are, we are in general, we covered the core things that we had to, like in demography, the core part of the study based on the work packages. Then the main thing that we were working on within this survey was the surveying concepts that Mojca already mentioned, like evidence, equity, power, sustainability, and trust. Beside that, we worked on characteristics of decision-making processes and the childhood obesity policies. And we were also interested in how stakeholders work together, how they trust each other in terms of networks of collaboration and trust. Within the course of the project, we kind of established a tool to cluster stakeholders according to their the responses on specific topics. We call this agreement charts that we will show later. And we also measured like different associations, as said before. Can we move on? Sorry, yeah, I have the strength. Who the respondents are? Most of the largest part of the respondents, each respondent was able to point out like 3 fields that they work in. So we kind of joined this all this information into sector of where they work, and we see that most of them are from health sector. And the big part from the research and agriculture and so on, which is kind of expected. And since it was pointed out in the first survey that we have problem with who the sector, health sector is, who is representatives of health sector, because we realize that there are so many different opinions. In this second survey we made like within analysis of the health sector, and we can see that most of stakeholders from health sector engage in research, engage in policy prevention activities and so on. So now we kind of we can figure it out. We figured out who the stakeholders are and describe them. Describe them according to their opinions and so on. In terms of the concepts that we were measuring, I will just show here that the measurement tool for measuring trust. You can see that we used like 5 indicators for measuring trust, which is kind of which was measured as a statement in terms of, okay, some stakeholders may be problematic to collaborate with due to unprofessionalism, or they don't do the things they say they will do, and so on. So we were trying to measure the attitudes towards different kinds of group of stakeholders, because it would be like too in a way expensive or hard for stakeholders to respond for everybody with whom they collaborate. So we have groups of like academia, public sector, private sector, media, and NGOs. So here you can see the joint results, and from the other perspective, we can look at the same results as in a network form. So these are things that we're going to work here in terms of, okay, of a network. Here we have the respondents, who are the green dots on the bottom, and these are the groups of the stakeholders that they were responding for are on the top. And we can see that, for instance, for the indicator, the type of organization will only pursue their primary goals in a given agenda. There are differences in responses from different kinds of stakeholders towards different kinds of group of stakeholders. So these are things that we were interested in the further analysis. And just to mention it, the dashed lines here means disagreement with a statement on the top, and the full lines means agreement with a certain idea. As mentioned before, since health sector is a really large one, we also have like the same networks done on just representative stakeholders from the health sector. As you can see, the attitudes differ according to the type of work the stakeholders do within health sector, according to different group of stakeholders. So, these concepts will really bring us like a deep overview of the dynamics within the ecosystem, as we call it in our analysis. To move on, we were not only measuring the key concepts, we were also interested in what stakeholders believe there are good approaches to tackle the problem of decision-making processes and in preventing childhood obesogenic environments. And as you can see on slide, the largest difference here is the difference in changing the regulatory environment in terms that, okay, these are the questions: what are you doing, and what do you think it would be good to do? And you can see that here is the difference. The difference in this part is the largest. From this, we made a model and figured out that we have like two dimensions. One is, okay, that soft approaches are kind of a good way to change things, and then you have like regulatory approaches that are good things to do. So we can describe our stakeholders according to these two dimensions. Just to move on, so just briefly, on the right side, you have like different types of stakeholders according to these two dimensions. To move on, we were also interested in general collaboration network between stakeholders, not just trust networks and so on. So these are also things that we are working on. So with whom they collaborate, and how the trust is involved in this collaboration. Okay, I already mentioned the agreement charts that we used, that we developed as a tool for us to work with within the process of communication with stakeholders. Don't get scared when you see these nice pictures. The most important information that you will get is on the right side on the slide. Basically, we use these cluster stakeholders to 3 different clusters. The left side picture tells us how different they are according to their opinions. We can see that cluster number 3 there is a lot of red color towards the cluster 2 and 1. And we can see from this that cluster number 3 is much different than cluster 1 and 2. And on the right side, in the graph, you can see the average responses towards 3 indicators used to produce this agreement chart. And these are the things that we are going to be interested in also later in the discussions. And you can see that cluster number 3, for instance, we have like a huge difference for the third indicator that, compared to the first 2 that we can deal with. These clusters are later presented according to our concepts that we measured, and are used to evaluate the content, the stakeholders that we are going to work with. Maybe just to move things back to Mojca to present the further things that we're going to do in work package 10.
Thank you so much, Luka. I think that we have gathered a lot of interesting data and a lot of insights, but let's speak first about the further steps in Work Package 10. So we will run the dialogues, the 3rd and the 4th ones, and the 3rd ones will be just today in the afternoon, so please join and discuss with us. Then we will launch the comparative report of the both studies and prepare the sustainability plan, as I said. And what is also, I think, really important is that we will use these results also for the other projects like Joint Action Best-ReMaP, so that we will be building on this scientific knowledge. And here, that's why we think it's so important that we link the research projects with the implementation projects. Exactly that's what we are doing at this conference. I'm just showing a few pictures. What are the recommendations for the future stakeholders networking? We have, in the conceptualization of this model or these recommendations, we try to look into the different literature, what is coming up. And as you can see, I'm not going into these models because it's not the aim. It's just the point that in the middle there of this model is also trust. So we are coming up, what came up from our dialogues is obviously something what deals with the stakeholders' engagement, but also the participation seems to be explored at different levels. So we will take a really care about all this, what other researchers came through. Also, it seems that social identity versus collective identity, when we present ourselves as stakeholders, has some influence on that, how do we behave. And that's something what we really struggled a lot with when we were composing the questionnaire. So also when we will be interpreting the data, we will really look into these dimensions too. And we will explore, and we are exploring what in fact the collaboration means. And thirdly, we did also the systematic review where we were trying to understand what that means, sustainable stakeholder engagement. So that was the main key word for this research. And it came out that whatever we do, it should be really concrete. We should really begin with something like a project planning if we want to achieve something together. Concrete, mutually shared, superordinate goals seems to be important. There is the precondition if you have the evidence-based, efficient and successfully implemented project or activity, which is worth to preserve, then it works better in the further activities. Then partnership, if it is established, then works better, and direct policy support is also quite important.